Welcome to Cheques and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And this week, should I upgrade my home?
So Mike, when I'm putting together a financial plan for my clients, they will say, James, I'd like to be debt-free over this period of time. I'd like to achieve an early retirement. I'd like to help my kids. And then they go, ask them a question. What do you think about your current home? And they go, oh, yeah, no, we got a 2-bedroom house. We definitely need to move to a 4-bedroom house. We need to be thinking about school zones, blah, 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 blah. And then you go, oh, you're going to end up with another $500,000 of debt. How are you going to take that into consideration?
All of a sudden, we're in Jonky now. We're still paying off that mortgage when we're 75. It's not good.
Yeah, might need a bit more of a mortgage than that for Jonky now. But very common scenario, people are ambitious with their goals, but I guess just make the decision around their lifestyle and go, we need a larger home, without thinking about, well, what are the long-term implications to your goals and your situation by taking on the additional debt.
Yeah, and we definitely aren't suggesting that you should buy your first home and stay in that first home forever. Of course, people's situation changes. You have kids, family expands, you do need to think about school zones from time to time. But what we want to do is just highlight actually what that can mean when for your debt later on in life when you do start to, make these upgrades.
Yeah, if you end up having 5 kids and you're living in a 2-bedroom house, probably not right to stay in that house for that whole time. But I guess this emphasizes the importance of, rather than just making one-off decisions, understanding the implications of your decision and going, well, yes, I understand I'm going to be paying a mortgage for X period longer, but I need this for my lifestyle.
Yeah, and typically we see customers that, if the bank says yes, they just take on the debt. They'll max that out without actually considering all of those long-term implications.
I tell you, those mortgage brokers,
I know.
They're just
So
out
shady.
there giving away money. They're not thinking about the person at the end of it. No, I'm joking, Mike. I'm joking. It is about, of course, like if you've got a strong income, you've got a long time to retirement, there's no rush.
Yep.
So we find what's best to do with these, when we're talking about these topics, is to give a scenario and talk about, we've got a Bob and Jane, Bob and Mary, what happens over a longer period of time and the implications to them. So Mike, we've got some assumptions on a kind of a couple. Do you want to run us through what those assumptions are?
Yeah, cool. So 35 years old, current home value is 1.5 million. They've got a 500K mortgage. Jointly they earn 200,000 together. They've got 80K of expenses per annum, and they've got 50K in KiwiSaver. Let's call them Tom and Brittany.
Tom and Brittany?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were with were we Bob and Jane? But that's all right. Tom and Brittany sound like a lovely couple. I'm sure they're going to work out. So what we need to be thinking about with this couple, firstly, you go, great, strong income. They've got a lot of equity in the home, $1 million of equity.
Yeah.
They're going to be feeling pretty confident about life and going, over the long term, we're going to be fine. So there's 2 options for Tom and Brittany. They've got a home together already.
Yep.
They can either choose to upgrade their home because they're going to want to have a couple of kids.
Yep.
They can upgrade to maybe a $2 million home, or they can stay in their existing home and pay down their debt faster. So, Mike, if we upgrade the home, what's going to happen to the mortgage? What's going to happen to their retirement? What's going to happen to Tom and Brittany?
Yeah, well, if they go from that $1.5 million to the $2 million home, it's only an additional 500K. What's the harm, right?
No harm, surely.
Exactly. So this is actually going to take them 24 years to clear that mortgage down. By the time they hit 65, they'll have 1.3 million in assets, and they'll get about 65K per annum, in passive income through retirement.
Yeah.
So not too bad.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at that and you go, hey, they've got the nicer house. The income in retirement will allow them to live a reasonable lifestyle. Once again, Tom and Brittany are in a good position.
Yeah.
This will vary a lot depending on your own situation. If you want to have a chat to about your own situation, please come and have a chat with us and we can work it out. But this looks pretty good, right? Passive income for the rest of your life, 65K, mortgage of 24 years. I'm not too excited about that.
Yeah.
But what about, Mike, if they stay in their current home, if they go, well, actually, our home is big enough for little Brittany and little Tom, how does that look?
Yeah, so if they stay in their existing home and don't upgrade, they'll clear the mortgage in 10 years, so a much shorter time to pay that down. That means they'll actually have $2.4 million in net worth by the time they're 65. And most importantly, when you get to that age and you have retired, that means they'll get 100K per annum in passive income through their retirement. Now, that's a significant difference from that 65 up to that 100K.
Yeah. If we're kind of breaking it down, for this couple, what does $500,000 more of debt mean? It means you can have an extra $35,000 a year in retirement.
Yep.
You clear your mortgage 14 years faster, and your and it's actually not your net position, Mike. It's excluding the family home.
Yeah.
So maybe your investment portfolio, your KiwiSaver, the cash you've got available, but nearly another. Well, it's more than that. It's $1.1 million. The difference on it, because you got those mortgage repayments, right? And you can save that money and get ahead.
Yeah, and what you'll hear us when we talk about this in our webinars and to customers, you'll often hear us talk about that sprint, right? And that's that time between when you've paid off the mortgage before you've retired. You still got that income coming in, and you can allocate that towards investments, savings, planning for retirement, all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah. So once again, we're not saying don't upgrade your home, but just think about the pros and cons. The other thing, Mike, instead of, I guess, going and buying a bigger home, other people contemplate is renovations. Whew. You and I have renovated a deck before. That didn't work out very well. I've had some horror stories with the renovations. Might have ended up at the small claims court time or two with a builder. What are some of the benefits of renovating your home, Mike?
Whoa, it's a hard one. No, I think in terms of benefits, look, you're not going to, generally you won't spend as much money as if you're upgrading. You're going to get exactly what you want within reason because you can tailor your house towards it. And you're adding equity and value to your home, right? So when you do ultimately go to sell that home, you've increased the value of it.
Yep.
What are the downsides? You have to renovate your home.
You have to renovate your home. Everyone hates living in a renovation.
Yeah.
The other thing I see quite common when doing financial plans, Mike, is the budget, like in terms of your day-to-day expenses, completely blows out.
Yeah.
Because you have money coming in, money coming out. There's some extra dinners out. There's a bit more like it just all falls apart, and you lose a period of your life.
Yeah. And when we do these calculations, when we are looking for lending to renovate your home, we dial in like an overspend, 10% cost overrun, because it will overrun. But there are instances where you see, due to council delays, bad luck, and maybe some shoddy builders as well, budgets can double, time periods can double. If you have to move out of the house and start renting, it just really puts that cost up. So it's not an option. But there are things to consider, obviously get a builder you trust, get it all sorted before you actually go out and do it in terms of plans, consents, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and coming back to the pros, I know couples who have gone, we really love that area, we can't find something else within our budget. The best option is to renovate. Sometimes it works. So there's a little bit about thinking about if you're going to upgrade or renovate your home, some pros and cons in that little scenario with Tom and Brittany and little Tom and little Brittany. Now let's change tack, Mike. It's been a big week. ASB coming out with something quite different in the market with a floating new build interest rate.
Yeah, they did. So that's a real sort of indication as to where not only the major banks, but also the government are sort of trying to push, demand and supply in terms of the housing market. So, it's available for investors or for first home buyers, and it's really trying to just attract people into that new build market, increase that housing stock, sort of all that sort of good stuff. Floating rate for 3 years. What does that mean? It means after 3 years, you'll just roll off onto their normal rates. It can go up or down at any time because it is a floating rate, but you've got to sort of reasonably predict that ASB have done the math on this and sort of think that they can maintain this rate for at least a reasonable period of time, even if it's not the full 3 years.
Yeah, but on the flip side, if rates move at a higher level, then it is going to be what it is, right? And people will end up paying more.
Yeah, but you run that risk all the time, right?
Yep.
Like even when you fix a mortgage for 12 months, you run that risk of when it comes off after that 12-month period that the rates have shifted up and everything's going to roll onto that. So, make hay while the sun shines. If that rate is applicable to you, definitely good to go out and get it.
Yeah, and if I'm thinking I'm not with ASB, should I be, and this particular floating piece works well for me, should I be moving across to ASB now, or should I be expecting other banks to move across? What's the crystal ball saying, Mike?
Oh, that's a good one. I guess if you're in the position where you're going to be settling on a property soon, in the next sort of 3 months, something like that, yeah, definitely consider looking for that approval from the ASB, because we simply don't know if the other banks are going to match this rate. Usually banks are fairly homogenous in their offerings, but this could be ASB turning on the tap, needing some new business. You know, their balance sheet and their book could be looking a lot different to, say, ANZ's or Westpac or something like that. So definitely attractive rate in the market. If you are going to settle soon, definitely think about going there and looking for that rate.
Yeah, important to say as well, we film these podcasts a week ahead. So by the time this comes out, other banks may have moved.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens when we're in the future watching this.
Cool.
Great. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this podcast. We hope you found this valuable. Make sure you're thinking about that. If you're going to upgrade your house, the implications of doing so. Please send through your questions. And hey, looking forward to seeing you next week.
Cheers.